If you recognize these shadow signs, you're a dark chosen one in disguise. There's a hidden group of people walking this earth right now, people who don't fit in, who feel like outsiders, who carry a kind of darkness deep in their bones. They've been rejected, misunderstood, feared, and sometimes even fear themselves. But here's the truth that no one dares to say out loud. These people are not broken. They are not cursed. They are not lost. They are dark chosen ones in disguise. If you feel like I'm speaking directly to you, it's because I am. This message is not for the masses. It's for the ones who've always known, deep down, that they were different, marked, called. But the world told you to bury it, to hide it, to pretend to be normal. That ends now. Oh. I want you to remember something ancient. Before we were taught to fear the dark, we lived in it. We were born from it. The womb, the void, the cosmos, it all begins in darkness. And yet we've been programmed to only chase light, to worship positivity, to demonize every part of ourselves that doesn't fit the mold. But what if I told you the darkness within you was never meant to be erased? What if it was meant to be activated?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You see, the chosen ones are not always shining, smiling, and floating in robes of white light. Sometimes they walk through fire. Sometimes they carry generations of trauma, pain, and raw power that the world isn't ready for. And that's exactly what makes them chosen. Because to carry shadow is to be initiated into sacred truth, and most people will never understand it. But you do. Somewhere in your soul, you've always known there's something deeper at play. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever felt like you absorb the pain of others like a sponge? Like you can see through people's masks while they can't see through yours? Do you feel emotions so intensely that it's overwhelming? Do you sometimes feel like you're meant to do something huge but you don't know what it is yet, and it terrifies you? These are not flaws. These are signs. And the top 1% of awakened souls on this planet know that these signs don't point to weakness, they point to power. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to be palatable, to be safe, or to be what the world expects. You are here to disrupt, to transform, to burn illusions to the ground and rebuild something real from the ashes. But before you can rise, you must first understand what the darkness inside you really is. Most people think of shadow as evil. But the truth is, shadow is simply the part of you that has not been loved. It is not the opposite of light, it is the forgotten twin of light. And the dark chosen ones are the souls who came to this earth with the mission to reclaim the shadow, to bring it into consciousness, and to excavate the hidden codes of power and wisdom that others are too afraid to touch. This path is not easy. It's brutal. It will rip away your illusions. It will force you to look at the parts of yourself that make you want to run. And yet, if you stay, if you breathe through the fire and keep walking, you unlock something that no book, no teacher, no external validation can give you. You unlock raw spiritual authority. You become a presence that doesn't just speak truth, you embody it. But don't expect applause. The world is afraid of people like you. Why? Because you can't be controlled. You don't fall for the masks. You don't play the game. You see too much. You feel too deeply. And that makes you dangerous to illusions, to systems, to falsehoods. But it also makes you sacred. The universe doesn't choose the polished. It chooses the prepared, and preparation often looks like pain, isolation, and deep inner chaos. That chaos? It's not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're being forged. Every heartbreak, every rejection, every dark night of the soul, it's not punishment. It's initiation. The dark chosen ones are initiated through suffering, because only those who've touched the bottom can hold the highest light without losing themselves in ego. So how do you know if you're one of them? Look at your life. Have you always felt like an outsider, even in your own family? Have you gone through intense betrayals, where people turned on you without reason? Have you had moments where reality seemed to crumble, where everything you believed in fell apart? These aren't coincidences. These are signs. You're not being punished, you're being awakened. The universe strips away what is false so that what is true can emerge. And sometimes what's true is dark, raw, and uncomfortable. But here's the paradox. The more you embrace your shadow, the more light you radiate. Because when you're no longer ashamed of your darkness, you become whole. And wholeness is magnetic. It's undeniable. It's the energy of someone who has seen the underworld and returned with wisdom. That's who you are becoming, not a perfect being, but a powerful one. Let me ask you a question that will unlock something if you're brave enough to answer it honestly. What part of yourself have you been most afraid of? What emotion? What memory? What truth? That's your key. And your key. That's where the gold is. And the dark chosen ones don't run from that place, they walk straight into it. Not because they want to suffer, but because they know that the only way out is through. You don't need to be saved. You need to be seen. You don't need permission. You need to remember. Because everything you're looking for outside of your self-validation, clarity, direction, it already lives within your shadow. And when you stop judging it, start listening to it, and learn how to direct it, you become unstoppable. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you were before the world told you to be small. You were born marked, born sensitive, born powerful. And that power didn't disappear. It just went underground, waiting for the moment you'd be ready to reclaim it. That moment is now. The hidden codes in your pain, why suffering is the signature of the chosen. There's a reason your life hasn't been easy. There's a reason you felt more pain than most, even when you couldn't explain it. You've cried without knowing why. You felt like the weight of the world was pressing into your chest. You've questioned your own sanity in rooms full of smiling faces. And the deeper truth is this: suffering is not a curse, it's a code, a hidden signature. A soul mark that identifies you as one of the chosen, not chosen in the way society paints it, with crowns and applause, but chosen in the ancient, spiritual sense. The ones who carry the burden of transformation. The ones who were never meant to walk the easy path, because they came to build a new one. You've probably asked yourself, why me? Why can't you just be normal, just fit in, just not feel so much? But the ones who are here to awaken the sleeping world cannot be allowed to sleep themselves. So life gives them pain not as punishment, but as activation. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every dark night wasn't trying to destroy you, it was trying to awaken you. Pain is the language the soul speaks when the ego refuses to listen. And if you've suffered deeply, it means your soul has been screaming not because you're broken, but because you were born for more. Let me ask you something you've probably never dared to answer honestly. What if the worst things that ever happened to you were not detours, but designs? What if your loneliness, your depression, your anxiety, your rage, what if all of it was encoded with purpose? Not to crush you, but to crack you open. Because here's what the top 1% of awakened beings know: spiritual power doesn't come from escaping pain. It comes from transmuting it, turning it into fuel, into wisdom, into clarity, into presence. That's not something you can fake. It's something you earn through the crucible of your own suffering. The dark chosen ones know this. They don't look at their trauma and say, "Why me?" They look at it and say, "Now that I've survived this, what am I here to create from it?" They know that pain is not the end, it's the beginning. The moment you stop asking for your suffering to be taken away and start asking what it's trying to show you, everything changes. You stop being a victim of your story and you become the author of it. That's the true shift from wounded to awakened. And it doesn't happen in a temple or on a meditation cushion. It happens in the mess, in the grief, and in the nights when you think you can't go on, but somehow do. There are codes inside your pain, literal energetic blueprints that, when honored and decoded, unlock abilities you didn't know you had: intuition, vision, psychic awareness, and the ability to feel others from across a room, to speak truth that vibrates at the level of soul. But these gifts only come alive when you stop numbing yourself, when you stop running, when you turn around and face what you've been avoiding. The shadow doesn't destroy you, denial does. The moment you say, "Yes, I hurt," and that hurt matters, you begin to reclaim your power. This is why the ones who've suffered the most often carry the greatest light. Not because they're saints, not because they're perfect, but because they've earned it. They've sat in the fire and didn't die. They let it burn away everything false, and what remained was truth. Real truth. Not the kind you read in books, but the kind you can feel in someone's presence. That's what you're becoming. That's what you've always been becoming. So here's what I want you to remember. Your pain is not your weakness. It is your initiation. Your soul chose a path not of ease, but of depth. Because only those who've known darkness can guide others into the light without judgment. Only those who've felt hell can speak of heaven with any real authority. You are not here to be a surface-level teacher. You are here to be a portal. A living, breathing reminder that healing is possible. That power can rise from ashes. That divinity can wear scars. So I'll ask you again, what if your pain has been sacred this whole time? What if it's not something to hide, but something to honor? What if the very thing you've been most ashamed of is the thing that will set others free? The dark chosen ones don't run from their wounds. They show them, not for sympathy, but for service. Because when others see your truth, they are given permission to own theirs. You are not broken, you are becoming. And everything you've survived has been preparing you for what comes next. The unseen power you've always had, how dark empaths shape reality. There's something about you that others can't quite explain. They feel it before they understand it. You walk into a room and the energy shifts subtly, but undeniably. You've been called intense, too sensitive, too deep, too much. People project onto you without even realizing it. Strangers open up to you. Friends come to you with their chaos, their secrets, their pain. And you wonder why you always seem to carry more than your share. Here's the truth, you're not just empathic. You're a dark empath. And the difference is everything. Dark empathy is not about being evil. It's not about manipulation or control. It's the capacity to feel the entire emotional spectrum of others, including their hidden motives, their unconscious traumas, their suppressed rage, and still hold your center. It's the ability to sense the unseen energies in people's words, actions, and silences. It's a gift wrapped in a burden, because while others are living on the surface, you're tuned into the undercurrents. And that can be exhausting unless you learn how to wield it. Most people never learn to use their empathic gifts because they're too busy trying to survive them. They absorb everything: the pain, the shadows, the projections of the world, and become overwhelmed, drained, even sick. But the dark chosen ones, they learn to alchemize that energy. They don't just feel what others feel, they understand why. They see the patterns. They read the codes. They become mirrors so clear that others can't help but confront their own truth. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you just lived through someone else's life? Like their sadness, their anger, their confusion became yours? That's not weakness. That's your radar. And when you stop trying to shut it down and start training it, something extraordinary happens. You begin to shape reality. How? Through presence, through precision, and through awareness so sharp it cuts through illusion like a blade. But a dark empath doesn't just feel the world, they influence it. Not by force, but by frequency. That when your energy is grounded, clean, and intentional, you become a tuning fork that others unconsciously calibrate to. You shift dynamics, you dissolve lies, you trigger awakenings, and at your highest potential, you don't just reflect the world, you rewrite it. But this power comes with responsibility. Because when you can see through people, it's easy to misuse it, to manipulate, to control, to play God. And that's why your path has been so difficult. The universe had to test you. It had to make sure you wouldn't use your gifts from ego or fear. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every moment of emotional overload, it was training. Not to punish you, but to purify you. Because only those who've been humbled by their own shadow can be trusted with other people's. You are not here to be drained by the world. You are here to direct its energy. That's the shift. From sponge to sculptor. From victim to vessel. When you learn how to protect your field through boundaries, through ritual, through self-awareness, you stop absorbing what's not yours. And when you do that, your true gift emerges, the ability to transmute collective pain into clarity, chaos into creation. But this also means something else. It means you can't lie to yourself anymore. Because your sensitivity is so high, any misalignment in your own energy will feel like torment. That's why you can't tolerate fake conversations, superficial relationships, or working jobs that don't feed your soul. It's not because you're picky, it's because your system is hardwired for truth. And when you live out of alignment with that truth, your body, your mind, your spirit will rebel. That's not dysfunction. That's divine feedback. The most powerful dark empaths are invisible architects. They don't need titles, platforms, or recognition. They operate from the shadows, shifting the grid from within. They plant seeds of awareness in conversations, but they dismantle delusions with a glance. They bring healing not by preaching light, but by being present in the dark with love and without fear. But that's sacred work. That's spiritual leadership. And that's what you're here to do. So what if your sensitivity, your intensity, your emotional depth, what if those have always been your superpowers? What if being misunderstood was just part of your disguise? Because let's be honest, if people knew how powerful you really were, they'd fear you. They'd try to control you. That's why you were hidden. That's why your awakening has been gradual. The universe has been preparing you, piece by piece, for the moment when you'd remember who you really are. And now you're remembering. Rise of the shadow leader, why the world needs your darkness now. The world is unraveling. Systems are collapsing. Truth is being revealed faster than ever. And in all this chaos, something ancient is stirring, something the world forgot, but your soul has always remembered. This is not a coincidence. You are not waking up by accident. You are not being called into your power randomly. You are part of a prophecy, written not in books, but in energy. We are entering an age that no longer belongs to the false light, the polished, performative, curated spirituality. We are entering the age of the shadow leader. And that means we need you. You with your depth. You with your scars. You who have seen the underworld and didn't run. You who carry a darkness so sacred it scares even you sometimes. That is not a flaw. That is your anointing. In a world that's drowning in noise and illusion, we need voices that are forged in silence and truth. We need leaders who don't just speak light, they embody wholeness. And wholeness means realness, integrity, shadow and light integrated, not separated. You were never meant to be the perfect guru on the mountaintop. You were meant to walk through the streets of the world, grounded, raw, real, bringing soul to places that have forgotten it. And do you know why you're qualified? Because you've been those places. You've lived in the numbness. You've battled the inner demons, and you're still here. That's what makes you powerful, not your perfection, but your resilience, your willingness to keep showing up vulnerable, honest, and awake. Let me ask you something that only a shadow leader can answer. What if the part of yourself you've been hiding is the exact medicine the world needs? What if the things you thought disqualified you, your grief, your anger, your intensity, are the very things that make you trustworthy? The world doesn't need more polished masks. It needs mirrors. People who are so connected to their darkness that they shine without trying. That's what you're becoming. A reminder that healing isn't about becoming light, it's about becoming whole. And the truth is, the world is starving for wholeness. People are awakening, but they're disoriented. They're seeking truth, but finding trends. They're craving depth, but getting dopamine. And that's why the shadow leaders are rising now, not to fix the world, but to anchor it, to hold space for the breakdowns and the breakthroughs, to lead not from ego, but from embodiment. Your presence is your leadership. Your energy is your message. You don't need to shout, you vibrate truth. But let's make one thing clear, this path isn't safe. It's not about being liked, followed, or celebrated. It's about being true, and truth will trigger people. Your authenticity will mirror their avoidance. Your clarity will expose their confusion. But that's exactly why you're needed. Because shadow leaders don't lead from above, they lead from within. They go first. They descend into their own darkness and return with the codes. And those codes, they're not for sale. They're not for show. They're for service. So if you've been waiting for permission to step into your power, this is it. Not the sanitized version of you. Not the version that's digestible. But the real you. The one who cries at midnight and sees visions at dawn. The one who's been called crazy, intense, too much and kept going anyway. The one who's not here to fit in but to shift entire timelines with your presence. You are not alone. There are others like you, scattered across the world, quietly awakening, quietly remembering, quietly preparing. And when we rise, we don't rise with noise. We rise with clarity, with power, with grace. We don't burn the world down, we rebirth it. Because the ones who carry the darkness with reverence are the ones who carry the light with truth. You are a dark, chosen one, and now it's time to lead.